The first thing is, and this is probably the most interesting thing of all, is that a string is an array of characters. I can show that to you right here, and you might have seen this if you were writing some functions. Let's say I created a function here. It's called call string, and it accepts a parameter, an argument of a string type, right? And then say I call it. I'm going to call this function, but I'm setting it an integer. And look at the error I get. This function parameter expects a value of type bracket character. So when you see bracket character, what that's telling you is that's the same as a string. What's interesting about that is that if a string type is simply an array of characters, then we can perform all the operations that we can on an array on a string. Let's go over some of the things we can do. Like an array, we can access an item inside of it by its index value. So if I have an if statement and I have this string cat and I put the brackets 0 index, this is going to return a value of C, just like an array. There's also a function called ToString, and that's what got me started on this whole string thing, by the way. I'm going to talk a little about what it can't do before what it can do. So one thing it cannot do is it cannot convert a string into a float value. If I initialize a string up here, call it my string 7 of a string type, and I initialize it, say this is the beginning and the end, I can, just like an array, I can actually cycle through this whole thing one letter at a time. And it'll print out vertically if I were to do that. So you can loop through each item in a string just like you can on an array. The next thing you can do, like an array, is if we have an evaluative if expression, we can get the length of the string. But we have to give it something to evaluate. It won't just print this out for us. We have to say, give it something to evaluate. So here I'm saying, if my string is greater than 10, then go ahead and do this. But I can get the length of my string by just putting dot length after my string. Now here to ToString we can talk about. So what ToString can do is here, this ToString here, it's a verse method, but it can convert a float into a string type. It can also convert vectors, but I didn't put that down on here. But a ToString converts a float, so I can get a variable my float 1.001, and I can convert that with ToString into an actual string. We can also convert integers from integers into strings as well. And then the last thing is we cannot convert logic types to strings. So if I try to do a logic value, that won't work either. It's just some interesting things to know about the string. Take care, have a great day, and I'll talk to you next time.